Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's U.S. History 5-Minute Lectures. This information is U.S. Notes 5.9, Latinos Fight for Fair Treatment. It includes information that goes along with the first section on your unit study guide. Now remember, you have control over the lecture, so use your study guide to help you figure out what's important to write down, pause when you need to, write down questions if you need, and rewatch if you need. Let's go ahead and get started. So the final group I want to tell you about in this is the Hispanic Americans who fought for civil rights during this time period. They, like the other groups you've learned about, desired equal treatment and were spurred by the African American civil rights movement and the successes that they had in order to fight for their own civil rights. The best known leader of the Latino civil rights movement is Cesar Chavez. Chavez was born on a farm in Arizona, but when he was young, his parents' income declined. They're no longer able to pay the taxes on their farm property and had to leave that farm, and they became migrant workers in California. As a migrant worker, Chavez saw many instances of unfair treatment, poor wages, and long hours. Many migrant workers were immigrants, some illegal, and they felt they could not complain about the unfair treatment that they received. Chavez and another worker, Dolores Huerta, decided change needed to happen, and the two of them organized the United Farm Workers, also known as the UFW. The UFW is a union for migrant workers which fought for improved working conditions, increased pay, and shorter working days. They successfully organized strikes to force owners to treat workers better and to reach their goals. So both Chavez and Huerta were very politically active for many years. Chavez up until his death, and the same with Huerta, who was also active in women's rights. Another Latino rights activist you should know about is Rodolfo Gonzalez, also known as Corky Gonzalez. He's important to us partially because he was active in Denver, Colorado. He actively encouraged Latino pride and heritage. He helped to organize student protests and rallies in the city, and he really promoted the ideas behind the movement. So one of his best-known works is actually a poem, I Am Joaquin, which expressed pride in Latino culture. It addressed the limitations placed on Latinos by the American government and by society. So Gonzalez fought to gain attention for inequality and to gain support for the Latino rights movement. That's really what he was trying to do. Now, I also mentioned that Gonzalez helped to gain support for equal treatment, and he helped to promote student protests. So there were a lot of student protests around the U.S. during this period, including some that happened in Denver. Latino students were angry about the conditions of the schools in the barrios, or Hispanic neighborhoods that they lived in. These schools were often very poor, overcrowded, run down, and had extremely high dropout rates. So students wanted better conditions, they wanted a better education. So in March of 1968, student protests actually began. They began with 10,000 students walking out of 5 Los Angeles area high schools in protest. After that, students in other cities, which included Denver, followed. These actions gained attention, but they didn't get complete change. So what the students wanted actually took actions to the Supreme Court enforcing Brown versus Board of Education to change how schools were funded and how they were run. Now, Chavez and Huerta and the UFW were very successful in changing things using strikes. So different amounts of success in the Latino civil rights movement. This is the end of U.S. Notes 5.9. Bring any questions you have to class tomorrow. Hopefully you learned something.